Do you ever have this feeling that something bad is about to happen, but then when you sit down and actually analyze what's going on, well, it's actually kind of good?
Feelings, nothing more than feelings.
That's kind of how this current real estate market feels. We'll get into that, but first, let's enjoy the beauty of summer in Pagosa Springs. This place is truly amazing. It reminds me of the last episode of Ted Lasso, where he's giving his final halftime speech with AFC Richmond.
I know folks like to say there's no place like home. That's true. Man, there ain't a whole lot of places like AFC Richmond either.
Many of us here are from places outside of Pagosa Springs, and while there's no place like home, there's really no place like Pagosa Springs either. Ted Lasso, I am gonna miss you. Favorite show on TV by far. All right, let's jump into these feelings. For what seems like years now, many YouTubers and media outlets have been calling for a real estate market crash.
The housing market in the United States across the country is in a massive housing bubble that is set to pop by the end of 2021 or early 2022.
But as each quarter has passed, the market has remained remarkably resilient. If you remember my last video, I mentioned that prices might rise this summer if supply doesn't substantially increase. Q1 2023 was down 45% compared to the 3-year average before COVID hit. So how did Q2 turn out? Did that trend continue? Now, May and June are historically the 2 months out of the year where most of our listings come on the market. So we knew there would be a big increase. But April started off shaky, down 46%, possibly due to snow hanging around longer than previous years. May and June were slightly below last year, but when compared to pre-COVID years, they were down 17% and 12%. If you look at our totals year to date, we're still significantly lower compared to previous years. Not by a little, but by a lot, so supply remains a problem. But what about demand? Our buying season doesn't really begin until July. The second half of the year typically has 35% more sales than the first half, so chances are demand would be down as well, and that's what happened. In 2023, April, May, and June were all down compared to pre-COVID levels. In year to date, we're down 32%. So if you compare both supply and demand to our pre-COVID years, they're both down about the same amount, which makes this market feel more neutral than it really is, because we do have a sense of what's about to happen in July, and that's because of the deals that are already under contract. We're near historical highs for the month of June when it comes to pending contracts, and most of those pending contracts will close during the month of July. The question is just how many and at what price, but I think it's safe to say that July 2023 will probably rank as the second highest month ever for sold units, which will help push the pendulum back towards the seller's market. But what does this mean for prices? This is probably what you care most about. If you remember, summer 2022 was the peak of our market and prices started to decline after that, but the trend line was reversed this past fall and everything in the winter pointed towards prices rising again. Take a look at price per square foot. As of this past month, Pagosa Springs is down only 2% from our peak last summer. And if you look at only the Pagosa Lakes area where most of our transactions occur, the rolling 3-month median price for all properties is up 8% compared to a year ago. But the story doesn't end there. Remember the old saying that Pagosa Springs is about 6 months to a year behind Durango? Well, Durango is hot. Their 3-month rolling median price is at a record high. Their average price for a home now is sitting at a 3-month average of $1.2 million. That's an incredible increase of 23% over last summer. So it's clear that the market is rising again, not crashing, despite what the fearmongers have been saying for years now. But remember those feelings I mentioned earlier? It's still important to kind of listen to them. Let's zoom in on the Pagosa Lakes area. So far in 2023, there's been 71 sales of single-family homes in PLPOA. Of those homes, 61% were priced below $600,000. If you look at pending sales, 63% are priced below $600,000. But look at active inventory. This is where the story changes. There's 82 active listings in the PLPOA area, but only 32% are priced below $600,000. Very different from what the recent sales and pending contracts are telling us. So what does this mean? 2 ideas. First, I think it means there's a serious affordability issue going on here, even in a second home market where 65% of buyers are all cash. When interest rates were around 3%, a couple making $150,000 a year could afford a $850,000 home with only $50,000 down. That's the incredible power of our low property taxes here in Colorado. But once interest rates jump to 7%, this same couple can no longer afford a home above $600,000. So these rates are causing budgets to be slashed. Second, I think it tells us that some of these properties are overpriced. I'm not the only realtor out there wondering what some of these sellers are thinking. And eventually, the prices on these overpriced properties will drop. One of my favorite examples is a property that was listed at $2.3 million last summer. It finally sold in February for $1.2 million, a drop of over $1 million. And that's where Team N Squared comes in. If you're a buyer, we protect you from overpaying for a property. And if you're a seller, we don't give you an unrealistic price just to get a listing. We're honest with you from the start. And with the media we create to use for advertising, we're able to generate more exposure for your listing than anyone else here in Pagosa Springs. The proof is in the numbers. Let's talk about it. Contact us directly at the number on the screen, or if you call Sherpa Real Estate, make sure you ask for Team N Squared. So where do we go from here? Well, I'm not exactly sure, as I can see it go either way. Since 68% of PLPOA properties are priced above $600,000, when they close, it will cause the median price to rise here in Pagosa Springs. And I think sellers are reluctant to drop prices much further. There's enough equity in these homes along with very low mortgage payments. So even though buyers are dealing with an affordability issue, sellers can afford to remain patient and wait for the price. In this case, prices rise. On the other hand, recent property tax valuations have many vacant landowners thinking about putting their property on the market, since the vacant land is taxed at about 4 times the residential property tax rate. So I can see the market flooded in the near future with land listings. How that affects the residential market remains to be seen, but it could cause supply to overtake demand, and that could trickle into the residential housing market. And in this case, prices decline. Either way, we're slowly going back to a normalized market where price swings are in the low single digits rather than the double digits. But when interest rates drop back into the 5s, look out, I think the market can take off again. You know what's not dropping? The temps in Texas.
All right, let's start with that massive heat wave baking the southern plains with dangerous triple-digit temperatures as a so-called heat dome over Texas causes temperatures to soar.
Since Pagosa Springs is one of the closest Colorado tourist destinations to Texas, more and more like-minded individuals would leave the heat and seek out the cooler weather and the better lifestyle here in Colorado. On top of that, the Springs Resort broke ground on their new expansion. If they're willing to invest almost 9 figures, that should tell you something about their confidence in this town and our tourism industry. So I totally believe in the future of Pagosa Springs. And when it comes to real estate, always think long term. All right. Thanks for watching. If you need any guidance on real estate or even what trails are worth hiking, hit me up. No matter what the question is, we find joy in helping others live the life they want. Cheers.